Obi was known throughout his village for his skill as a weaver and his charming smile. He had many admirers, and he enjoyed the attention. Obi believed he deserved the best, a wife who would not only be beautiful but also bring prestige to his name. He often told his friends that his future wife would be admired by everyone, a woman who would elevate his standing in the community. One market day, Obi saw Ifiak. Her hands were skilled as she bartered for goods, and her eyes held a quiet intelligence. Though not the most outwardly striking woman present, she carried herself with a natural grace. Obi, however, was drawn to Nkem, the daughter of a prosperous trader. Nkem was known for her beauty and her family's wealth, and Obi believed marrying her would bring him the status he desired. He barely noticed Ifiak, focused as he was on making an impression on Nkem. Obi began to court Nkem, bringing her fine clothes he had woven and showering her with compliments. Nkem enjoyed his attention and the admiration it brought her from other young women. Obi felt proud to be seen with her, believing he had made a wise choice that would benefit him greatly in the future. Meanwhile, Ifiak continued her work, respected for her honesty and her ability to create beautiful pottery. She saw Obi's pursuit of Nkem but held no resentment. She understood that people often valued outward appearances and material wealth. The older members of the community, however, saw Ifiak's steady character and her kindness towards others, qualities they knew were essential for a strong marriage. Obi formally asked Nkem's father for her hand in marriage. The celebration was lively, and Obi felt a sense of accomplishment. He believed he had secured a bright future for himself by choosing such a desirable wife. As the wedding preparations began, the women of the village observed Nkem more closely. While she was beautiful, her knowledge of household tasks was limited. She seemed more interested in leisure than in learning the skills needed to run a home. The elder women, though careful not to cause offense, began to whisper their concerns about her lack of practical skills. The initial excitement surrounding Obi's choice began to fade as people noticed Nkem's reluctance to participate in everyday chores. They saw Ifiak diligently helping her family and contributing to the community, her skills evident in everything she did. Comparisons between the two young women began to be made, often unspoken but clearly felt. Obi, initially dismissive of these subtle observations, started to notice them himself. He saw Nkem's impatience when asked to help with simple tasks and her lack of concern for the well-being of others. He recalled Ifiak's quiet competence and the respect she earned through her actions. A small seed of doubt began to grow in his mind. A harsh dry season descended upon the village, bringing hardship and scarcity. Food became scarce, and the villagers struggled. Nkem complained constantly about the discomfort and offered no help in finding solutions. She focused only on her own needs and those of her immediate family. Ifiak, on the other hand, worked tirelessly. She shared her knowledge of edible wild plants and helped others find ways to conserve water. She remained calm and resourceful, offering practical assistance and emotional support to those in need. Her strength and resilience became apparent to everyone. Obi watched Ifiak from afar, a growing sense of unease settling within him. He saw her selflessness and the gratitude of those she helped. He contrasted her strength and practicality with Nkem's complaints and helplessness. The realization began to dawn on him that he had valued superficial qualities over true character. He remembered his initial dismissal of Ifiak, based on her not fitting his idea of a prestigious wife. He now saw that true prestige came not from outward appearance or wealth, but from inner strength and the ability to support oneself and others during difficult times. The village elders, observing the unfolding situation, began to speak more openly about the qualities of a good wife. They praised Ifiak's resilience and her commitment to the community. They subtly questioned whether beauty and wealth alone were enough to sustain a marriage and a family through life's challenges. Obi listened to these conversations, the elders' words echoing his own growing doubts. He realized that he had been blinded by youthful vanity and had failed to recognize the true value of Ifiak's character. One evening, Obi encountered Ifiak by the stream. She was quietly collecting water, her movements efficient and graceful even in her weariness. He hesitated, then spoke, his voice softer than usual. "Ifiak," he said, "you are very strong." Ifiak looked at him, her expression calm. She simply nodded and continued her task. Her quiet dignity made Obi feel even more foolish for his past judgment. He understood that his words were inadequate to express the regret he now felt. Obi continued to observe Ifiak, noticing her kindness towards the children and her respect for the elders. He saw how she contributed to the village in meaningful ways, her actions speaking louder than any boastful words. The contrast between her and Kem became increasingly stark in his mind. He also noticed that Kem seemed more interested in social gatherings and complaining about the hardships than in supporting her community or even showing genuine concern for Obi. His initial admiration for her began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of disappointment. One day, Obi sat alone, reflecting on the events of the past months. He thought about his initial criteria for a wife, his focus on beauty and status. He then thought of Ifiak's strength, her kindness, and her resilience during the dry season. The realization hit him with a painful clarity: he had made a terrible mistake. He had rejected a woman of true worth for someone whose outward appeal masked a lack of inner strength. He understood that the qualities he had initially dismissed in Ifiak were the very qualities that truly mattered in a life partner. He had been so focused on what others would think that he had failed to see what was truly valuable. Obi never openly expressed his regret to Ifiak. He knew his words would likely sound hollow after his earlier rejection. He simply continued his work, but his perspective had changed. He now valued kindness and strength of character above all else. He watched Ifiak from a distance, a quiet admiration mixed with a deep sense of loss. He saw her build a good life for herself, respected and valued by the community. He knew that the opportunity he had once had was gone. Years passed. The village recovered from the dry season, and life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Ifiak eventually married a kind and hardworking man who appreciated her for who she was. They built a happy and stable life together, contributing positively to the community. Obi remained unmarried. He became a respected member of the village for his skill as a weaver and his quiet diligence, but a part of him always carried the memory of his youthful folly and the woman he had let slip away. As Obi grew older, he often reflected on his past. He understood that his initial focus on superficial qualities had blinded him to true worth. He saw Ifiak, a respected elder in the community, and the pang of regret would still surface. He had rejected a woman of substance for fleeting appearances, and he lived the rest of his days knowing the happiness he had missed, a constant reminder of his youthful mistake. He had rejected her as wife and lived to understand the true cost of his decision.